Well, good morning, everybody. We are about to hear from the National Weather Service. They are going to release their hurricane season outlook for this upcoming hurricane season, which starts here on June 1st. So in a couple of weeks, we will be officially here in hurricane season here in Hawaii. And we're about to hear from the officials at the Central Pacific Hurricane Center. Every year they do this press release, what their official forecast is. And we're going to be hearing from them coming up here just in a little bit, but we do want to talk about previous seasons and what this season may look like that's a little bit different. So let's take a look at some of the stats from last year. You can see over the last year, you can see we had two storms. This was Hurricane Hone and then also Hurricane Gilma. Hurricane Hone was the Hawaiian named storm and formed in the Central Pacific and actually impacted the Big Island. And then Hurricane Gilma formed in the Eastern Pacific and was a maximum strength of a Category 3 storm. So that actually moved close to the island chain, Hurricane Gilma, and then fell apart. The average per year is 4 to 5. Hurricane Hone moved just to the south of Hawaii Island and impacted the southern portions of the Big Island by bringing heavy rain, strong winds, but never officially actually made landfall. And again, we're waiting for the official forecast that will be coming up in just a little bit from the Central Pacific Hurricane Center. Taking a look at years past, 2024 was a La Nina storm, which meant that hurricane activity is suppressed. There's stronger wind shear aloft, which means that the hurricanes that do form have a difficult time making their way across the Central Pacific. They actually fall apart much more easily. El Nino, that wind shear isn't as present, so you see more active years. You also have warm waters in the Eastern Pacific. We had 4 storms in the Central Pacific in 2023, 1 in 2022, going all the way back to 2018, an El Nino year, we had 6. And then in 2015, we had 16 storms. This was a very active El Nino. What's different about this upcoming year is we're coming out of a La Nina and then going into a neutral year, which puts us around average for the amount of storms that we're having. Seems like we're about to go to the press conference, so let's listen in.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is John Bravender, and I'm the Warning Coordination Meteorologist with the National Weather Service Central Pacific Hurricane Center. Thank you for joining us today, especially everyone who's taken the extra time to join us here in person. We appreciate your commitment to getting us ready for hurricane season. I'd also like to thank the University of Hawaii, both the IT Center staff for hosting us, and especially the Atmospheric Sciences Department, in particular Wendy Carranza, for making this possible once again. Normally this is the point where I'd introduce our hydrologist, but he retired last month and thought he'd seen The Last of Us. Spoiler, we don't let go that easily. This year, with the recap of the wet season outlook and for the upcoming dry season, I'd like to introduce one of our meteorologists, Will Ahue. Will?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Will Ahue. I'm, like John said, I'm one of the meteorologists. And Tina and I will be taking over, trying to take over for the big shoes that we're leaving with Kevin being gone. So we'll do a quick recap of the wet season summary and then kind of go into our dry season outlook. So our wet season, based on forecast from CPC, was calling for a weak La Nina event through January through March. Was classified as a weak La Nina event from January through March, and then we transitioned over to ENSO neutral conditions as we got into April. The forecast called for above average rainfall through the wet season with a focus on significant rainfall over leeward areas. Rainfall totals, unfortunately, throughout the season were below normal. The good news was leeward areas, due to the layer flow and southeast flow that we saw, allow for some sea breeze convection to develop. So we did see the leeward areas did receive much needed rainfall. But in general, the entire state remained below normal throughout the entire wet season, which runs from October through April. So kind of just recapping the months, in October was a slow start to the wet season. We had below normal rainfall across most of the western half of the state. The good news is we did see some enhanced rainfall over the eastern half of the state towards the end of the month, which helped to lessen the drought impacts over there. November and December were really dry, as we can all imagine, right? You saw drought conditions worsen across all of the state. with isolated extreme areas developing across leeward portions of some of the islands. January, we saw a little reprieve with that big weather system that came through that brought a lot of rain to portions of the state. But then, unfortunately, dry conditions returned as we went from February to March, and severe to locally extreme drought returned to leeward areas in those during that time. But we did see some improvement, about 1 to 2 categories, as we went into March with the increase in rainfall that we saw in March. April also saw wet conditions, which helped to lower drought conditions over Kauai and Oahu. But unfortunately, they did worsen over portions of the Big Island and over Maui County. So for our dry season outlook, right now, probability forecast from the Climate Prediction Center favor ENSO neutral conditions to persist through the summer, with a 50% chance of those conditions transitioning to, continuing through October. Well, with that, we're looking for above normal precipitation across Kauai and Oahu, below normal precipitation continuing for the Big Island, and equal chances over Maui County. It's just hard. We're looking with the El Nino. It's hard. There's not like a real big weather driver, so there's not a big signal, but there are some warmer SST anomalies, sea surface temperature anomalies, around Kauai and Oahu, which is one of the reasons why they're calling for enhanced precipitation over there. The good news is with the April rainfall that we received over Kauai and Oahu, it's going to help delay our drought impacts and wildfire impacts over those islands. But we are expecting, especially with drought conditions being D0, D1, so moderate drought or worse, over all of Maui County and all of the Big Island. We are expecting drought conditions to worsen over there, and drought and fire weather conditions to worsen over there and continue through the entire dry season. The one maybe upside is that precipitation chances do look with a return towards typical trade wind conditions that we kind of see during ENSO neutral conditions. And as we enter into the climatologically wet season for the Kona slopes of the Big Island, we may see some reprieve over that location. But chances are, there's not a strong signal with those chances. So that's all I got, John. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Will. Next, I'd like to welcome Don Abeao, the Executive Officer of Hawaii Emergency Management Agency. Don?
All right, thank you, John, and everyone, all my colleagues here. I'm awarding or doing the proclamation rather for the hurricane season. This is from the governor. Hurricane season runs from June 1st through November 30th in Hawaii. Hawaiians come on and must always be vigilant to these weather events and be aware, educated, and ready to take action when storms develop in the Pacific Ocean. And it only takes one storm to change your life, your family, your ohana, and your community. And before this year's hurricane season begins, the state of Hawaii encourages everyone to be aware of their vulnerability to hurricane hazards, develop an emergency plan, and have 2 weeks of emergency supplies to ensure the safety of ourselves and our loved ones. On behalf of the governor, I read therefore, Josh Green, MD, Governor of the State of Hawaii, do hereby proclaim May 18th through the 24th, 2025, as Hurricane Preparedness Week. In Hawaii, and ask the people of the Oahu State to be aware, educated, and ready to take action as recommended by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration to safeguard our ohana, homes, and businesses before hurricane season. This is from our Governor, Josh Green, to the National Weather Service and NOAA. Along with this, I did say award, but that was a proclamation. I wanted to also recognize an individual, Kevin Kodama, which will be awarded the Arthur Chu Award for Excellence in Hurricane Preparedness, which recognizes the innovation and excellence in hurricane preparedness established in memory of Dr. Arthur Chu, a distinguished engineering professor who laid roots here at the University of Hawaii, my alma mater, with a focus on the impact of wind on structures. Dr. Chu dedicated much of his life to community safety, serving on the Hawaii State Hurricane Advisory Committee. This annual award highlights the significant contributions of individuals or organizations that enhance hurricane preparedness in our communities. So my backstory with Dr. Chu is I attended the University of Hawaii at the time, and I believe it was Bob Akinaka, who was one of our esteemed engineers here also. A friend of mine, I guess there's a lot of NOAA boosters here at the University of Hawaii, and Bob is also a boss of my friend Kevin Kawahara, which is at Akinaka and Associates. He always mentioned that he had a great mentor, and it was Dr. Chu. And I remember seeing him walking along the campus, but never realized that our disciplines would collide. But it's awesome to see that this award goes to Kevin Kodama, as we are thrilled to present the 2025 Arthur Chu Award to Kevin Kodama, whose remarkable career spans over 3 decades in federal service, beginning with the U.S. Air Force in 1994 and continuing with the National Weather Service. Since joining the Honolulu Weather Forecast Office back in 1997, and then taking on the role of hydrologist in 1998. Kevin's tireless efforts and years of dedication have helped protect lives and inform communities. Kevin, you exemplify the spirit of dedication and innovation that this award represents. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating Kevin Kodama on this well-deserved recognition. All right, well, do we have it? And a little bit of story too. When I'm also an Air Force veteran, so I remember Kevin giving those forecasts, and also he recognized the unit that I used to work at Keesler Air Force Base, the 53rd Weather Recon Squadron, better known as the Hurricane Hunters, on their C-130s. I went to tech school there, worked on the C-130s as well as their comm gear. So thanks for recognizing them. Thanks for being, for your service with the Air Force and the many years that you served our community. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Don, and congratulations, Kevin. Now you can go back to enjoying your retirement and put away your fancy pants. When we think about disaster preparedness, we usually focus on things like stocking up enough food and water, how much it costs, how much space it takes. One thing we don't necessarily think about is what our neighborhoods will look like after a disaster and how we'll get around. Trees down and crossroads, maybe limited fuel, maybe even traffic jams during rapid evacuations. With that in mind, I'd like to introduce Travis Council, Executive Director of Hawaii Bicycling League, to talk about how bikes and other micromobility devices can be an important part of your disaster preparedness plan. Travis?
Aloha and good morning. My name is Travis Council. I'm Executive Director of the Hawaii Bicycling League. I want to thank John and the National Weather Service for the invite and to talk about bikes as part of a preparedness plan. Hawaii Bicycling League was founded in 1975 and has been advocating for safer, more accessible communities across Hawaii since then. We're celebrating our 50th anniversary this year as well. Our work includes advocacy efforts to make streets safe for everybody, educational workshops to teach everybody from 4th graders all the way up to our kapuna, and large events, small events, even tomorrow's Bike to Work Day activities. May currently is National Bike Month and Bike Month in the city and county of Honolulu. And we're proud to promote biking not only as a mode of recreation and transportation, but a tool for resiliency. Bikes as a resilient mode of transportation are an amazing tool that's not only sustainable, affordable, and low impact, but when disaster strikes, bicycles are often the most useful personal vehicle in some of those impacted areas, when, as John mentioned, roads might be blocked, fuel might be scarce or hard to come by, communications and other things are hard to get to. After the 2024 New Year's earthquakes in Japan, Some of the first photos and videos we saw of those devastated areas were from people riding bicycles. Even after our unfortunate Lahaina fires, bikes were used to move not only people, but supplies, checked on loved ones, and navigate road closures. As John mentioned, bikes do not require any gas. They're self-powered. They can be nimble. They can be lifted over down trees or other things blocking the way, making them ideal for not only rural areas, but urban areas as well. And if you add a basket, a trailer, or potentially a cargo bike, you'll make it even more useful. In places that see frequent natural disasters, whether it's hurricanes or other impacts, bicycles are becoming more and more a part of those emergency response toolkits for both citizens as well as aid workers. Hawaii is certainly included in those areas. We encourage not only our professional teams, but our community response teams to work to include bikes. We work with our member-based organization to ensure people have the tools and knowledge they need to have a functioning bike all the time, but especially during emergency issues. So how do you prepare a bike for an emergency? The basics, ABC. You check your air, check your brakes, check your chain. So keep those tires inflated, keep the brakes working, lubricate the chain. A neglected or not working bike isn't really going to help you out. Have the basic tools, maybe a patch kit or some sort of repair kit. HBL offers free workshops to the community to how to fix a flat tire, how to ride a bicycle, all those types of things so you can feel comfortable knowing how to keep your bike working. As I mentioned earlier, you can install a basket or a rear rack, something that makes it a little easier to carry water, get supplies, even get pet and food supplies. Consider adding lights or reflectors. A lot of times these disasters can knock out power or make it where you want to stay visible when you're coming around. As part of your to-go bag, consider having a helmet or first aid kits, maybe gloves, so that you can operate a bicycle safely and be extra helpful for your neighbors. And then for families, whether it's kids or pets, consider adding a trailer or a cargo bike to your options to make movement more flexible. Especially not only a hurricane, but especially in our tsunami evacuations. John mentioned traffic jams, those types of things. A bicycle can be a much more nimble way of getting around than everybody getting in their car. Bicycles, as I mentioned, they're way more than just for leisure. They are definitely part of how we build a resilient community. They're how we're going to reach our state's goals of zero greenhouse gases and becoming a more self-sustaining community. Whether it's for everyday commuting, whether emergency evacuations, or getting supplies after a disaster, a bike can really make a difference when you're in trouble. So as we celebrate our 50th anniversary, we want to invite everybody to get more involved, not only in Bike Month, but I'm excited to note that the governor has also proclaimed June 3rd, so the start of hurricane season, as World Bicycle Day. This was designated by the United Nations a few years ago, and we were one of the first states to designate this national or international event, World Bicycle Day. So maybe use that June 3rd event to get your bike out, dust it off, make sure it's working as we come into hurricane season. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Travis. Next, I'd like to bring up Chris Brenchley, Director of the Central Pacific Hurricane Center.
Friends, aloha. I wanted to first of all take the liberty and opportunity to also add to the well-deserved award that has been given to Kevin Kadama, a colleague of mine. I feel like for a long time, when I've worked with him since before I needed these, I had more hair. Kevin, you still look good. You actually look more relaxed now. So we're really grateful to have had that opportunity to work together and just a really fantastic career. So congratulations on that. I also wanted to make sure to thank our Hawaii Emergency Management Agency Executive Director, Don Aveao, for his representing the governor at this press conference. And also Travis Council, Executive Director of the Hawaii Bicycling League, and for his words on preparation for this coming hurricane season. As Director of the NOAA's National Weather Service Central Pacific Hurricane Center, I do want to welcome all of our partners here from the state, from those from county emergency management, from University of Hawaii. This is really a team effort. We have community organizations represented as well as our media partners, so welcome. We're grateful for every sort of interaction and team building that goes on that helps us to become more weather ready and weather resilient community here on the islands. We, including all of the residents of the state of Hawaii, all play a role in that. The Central Pacific Hurricane Outlook for the season is developed and coordinated by experts at NOAA's National Weather Service Climate Prediction Center. And we want to acknowledge their service and support over the many years. Using the analysis of long-term global weather and water circulation patterns, as well as improving and increasingly accurate long-range models, which show where water will be warmer and upper air currents may favor hurricane development. In 2024, we had the season previous 2 tropical cyclones in the Central Pacific, which was below normal. Normally we'll get 4 to 5 tropical cyclones in the Central Pacific. And a tropical cyclone really represents a potential hurricane. They don't all become hurricanes, but they have that potential. So we look at last year, and we can see that even though it was a below normal season, we had a near brush by with impacts on the south side of the Big Island from Hurricane Hone last year, towards the end of August. So as we look forward to our outlook this year, we also want to keep in mind that that possibility exists even when we have very few tropical cyclones in the Central Pacific, that can still be a major impact depending on where those potential hurricanes go. In 2025, we expect near normal sea temperatures along the equator. So that is a neutral condition for El Nino, as my colleague said earlier. We also expect there to be typical to weaker than normal wind shear across the Central Pacific, which is a factor that keeps hurricanes from developing and can diminish hurricanes if they run into that. So there's a balancing act, but in 2025, we are most likely to experience a near to below average tropical cyclone activity this season. That's for the entire Central Pacific. So the outlook specifically is for 1 to 4 tropical cyclones, and that includes tropical depressions, tropical storms, and hurricanes. Again, any one of these tropical cyclones is a potential hurricane. Note that the outlook is for the larger Central Pacific area and does not predict whether these cyclones directly impact Hawaii. We've had very active seasons where we've been lucky and not had any tropical cyclones hit the state. 2015 is a great example. But if we have a tropical cyclone anywhere in the Central Pacific, it definitely warrants our attention and will be watched closely. Even though the season is predicted to be below to near normal, there is still a need to prepare. Now is that time. All of us as residents play a role, as well as businesses, in preparing for whatever the hurricane season may bring us this year. Know where you can get the latest official information and have a plan. With that, I will turn the time back over, and mahalo for your time.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Once again, thank you to everyone here for helping us prepare for hurricane season. As Governor Green proclaimed, Hurricane Preparedness Week in Hawaii starts on Sunday. So look for information on a different preparedness topic each day, posted in the top news section of our website, weather.gov/Hawaii, and on our social media channels. We'll be sending out a recording of this briefing and the material we covered today, and please reach out if you have any questions. For those of you here in person, we have printed copies of the wet season summary and the hurricane season outlook. Don't let me forget to hand those out again. Now we'll wrap up this live stream, and once again, thank you for your time.
And you just heard from the Central Pacific Hurricane Center and the National Weather Service. The 2025 outlook is 1 to 4 tropical cyclones near to below average conditions expected this year. Again, we are coming out of a La Nina year, which typically suppresses hurricane activity and tropical cyclone activity. We are going to be seeing a neutral year with around average conditions, sea surface temperature conditions around the equator. Again, the 1 to 4 tropical cyclones expected near to below average conditions. Again, let's walk through again what was just announced at the Outlook press conference from the Central Pacific Hurricane Center. There was the INSO neutral conditions are expected to persist. INSO means El Nino Southern Oscillation. That's the oscillation between La Nina and El Nino. So we're going to be in between those, neutral, which is a more average year that we are expecting. Above normal precipitation for Kauai and Oahu is predicted during this dry season. However, below average precipitation is expected for the Big Island, and this is all due to different sea surface temperatures around the each island. Some warmer pockets of water will lead to some higher than average precipitation amounts for the dry season for the western half of the state, and it seems like equal chances for Maui County. The Emergency Management Agency also wanted to remind everybody that it only takes one storm for it to be a bad hurricane season. Make sure to take your time now to develop your plan. May 18th, the governor proclaimed, is now Hurricane Preparedness Week. That's this upcoming Sunday, so you'll have about a week from it's May 18th through the 24th, which is now Hurricane Preparedness Week. You've got 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks until hurricane season officially starts on June 1st, but it's a great reminder to be prepared now. And then Kevin Kodama, the former hydrologist at the National Weather Service office in Honolulu, was awarded the Arthur Chu Award for his service while there. The Hawaii Bicycling League also wanted to remind everybody that a great tool to have, especially during an ongoing disaster, is a bicycle. Imagine if there's no access to fuel, there's blocked roadways. A bicycle is a great way to get around, and they encourage everybody who's listening to potentially add a bicycle to their preparedness kit. It could be important for your plan. Always remember the ABCs. The Hawaii Bicycling League reminds you to check your air, check your brakes, and check your chain before hurricane season starts. And again, June 3rd is World Bicycle Day. 1 to 4 tropical cyclones expected in the Central Pacific basin this year, near to below average conditions. Again, we are going out of a La Nina into neutral conditions, and that will be around average conditions. Let's just take a look again at some of the other data from previous years. Again, we are going to be seeing, if we start out this and actually see development in the Central Pacific. Remember, we had Hurricane Hone, which was passing south of the Big Island at the end of last August. If we see another storm form in the Central Pacific, it will receive a Hawaiian name, which will be Iona. It has a different naming convention than those forming in the Eastern Pacific or the Atlantic. And here's a look at the Eastern Pacific names this year. The first name will be Alvin, and then it goes on from there. Let's bring me back up on camera. We want to remind everybody a couple of things before we go. 1 to 4 expected in the Central Pacific year, 1 to 4 tropical cyclones, which puts us near to below average conditions. Again, we're moving out of La Nina into neutral conditions. The entire First Alert weather team has been working very hard on a new special for you. This is going to air on June 3rd at 6:30 p.m. on KGMB, the First Alert Hurricane Season 2025 special. This is something that we put together every year, a great way to get reminded of how you can be prepared and also look at some of the science behind hurricanes, behind tropical cyclones. And also, researchers across the entire state have been doing a really good job installing new technology to help us be prepared, especially when we've seen in the past years, like with Hurricane Dora, south of the islands, how we can see fire weather intensified by hurricanes being in the system. So please remember to tune in. The first 30-minute special airing will be on June 3rd at 6:30 p.m. on KGMB. We'll also be on several of our other stations, but this is the day that it airs. And just a reminder that it airs June 3rd at 6:30 p.m. And a great tool to have, especially ahead of hurricane season, is our H&N First Alert weather app and News mobile apps. Of course, if we're actually seeing active weather, you can take a look at the outlooks from the National Hurricane Center, the Central Pacific Hurricane Center at any time, and also look at the radar and get updates from our News app, which will give you around-the-clock updates, especially after the storm, where we're seeing new information coming out from the damage. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We are going to be updating you at This Is Now coming up in just a little bit. We will be hearing from Chief Meteorologist Jennifer Robbins, who is going to interview some of the forecasters from the Central Pacific Hurricane Center. So make sure to tune in to This Is Now coming up at noon. We'll also have further information at our early evening newscasts. Thank you for tuning in.